When you look around, what do you see? A rock, a tree, a person? But what are we really seeing? A rock is granite. Granite is made of atoms. Atoms are made of protons, neutrons, electrons. Protons and neutrons are then in turn made of quarks, and quarks are energy. And that's what everything is made of. The division is just in our minds. But we can't just look around at the world and say, that's quarks, and that's quarks, and that's quarks. We have to have names for things. But they don't really exist. They're just words. Everything is the same stuff. Well, everything except for nothing. But nothing is just an abstract concept we've invented to mean non-existence. So what I'm saying is, nothing doesn't exist, but also that no thing actually does exist. But then the entire universe, everyone who's ever lived, everything and nothing are all just the same thing, and words can't even begin to describe the beauty of what it all really is. Everything you see has a source you cannot see. We live surrounded by form, believing that what we touch, see, and experience is absolute. Yet everything that appears is born from what cannot be seen, the unmanifest, the silent womb of existence from which the entire cosmos arises and then dissolves back into. When consciousness expresses itself, it becomes form, and when it rests, it becomes formless. The manifested reality is only the surface. The ocean remains unseen beneath these waves. We get lost in the waves and forget the ocean. Yet every form is only a temporary vibration of the formless, a momentary shape that infinity takes on. Advaita Vedanta calls this Brahman, the formless absolute, untouched by birth and death. Advaita Vedanta stands out as one of the most sophisticated metaphysical systems ever conceived, not just in India, but in human history. It proposes something radical, that the ultimate reality, Brahman, is without attributes, without will, and without action. Through the process of neti-neti, not this, one realizes that everything conceivable cannot be the self. You aren't your thoughts because you can observe them. You aren't your feelings because they change. You aren't even the thinker because your thoughts arise uninvited. Can you predict what your next thought will be? No. Then how do you class yourself as the thinker of thoughts? What remains constant through every moment of life is awareness itself. That awareness is not personal, it is Brahman, unchanging, self-luminous, and universal. What's fascinating is how naturally this aligns with modern philosophy. Thinkers like David Chalmers talks about pre-reflective awareness, the raw quality of consciousness that precedes thought. The Upanishad said this centuries ago. Consciousness is not a product of thought, but the stage on which all thought occurs. When people talk about Indian philosophy, they usually imagine a single system. But the truth is, it's a vast network of schools, each dissecting reality from a different angle. But they all trace back to one pursuit, understanding consciousness. Kashmiri Shaivism calls it Shiva Tattva, the external consciousness that appears as both stillness and motion. The one who sees only form is bound, but the one who perceives the formless behind the form becomes free. The absolute reality is formless, yet it dances as form. It is silence expressing itself as sound, stillness vibrating as life. And this is known as Shakti, the energy that powers all of existence. To rest in the formless while engaging with the form is liberation in itself. And this non-dual insight wasn't limited to one region or culture. Every civilization that reached a certain depth of inquiry, from the Greeks to the Taoists, stumbled upon some form of non-dualism. Yet, in India, it was given its purest philosophical form. Over time, the Puranas brought stories and tales of gods and demons. The idea of the formless, the Nirakar, was never lost, it was just made accessible. Because not everyone can sit with an abstract thought. The human mind needs something to see, to hold, to love. The ego needs something before which it can bow. And so the infinite consciousness took forms, Akar, as Vishnu, as Shiva. The Puranas did not erase the truth of the Upanishads. They translated it. They turned metaphysics into stories so that philosophy could be lived, not just understood. The same Tattvamasi, you are that, began to speak through stories, songs, and symbols. And that is the paradox and beauty of Sanatan Dharma. It offers 1,000 paths to the same source. Another example is Vaishnavism, especially as shaped through the Mahabharata and the Puranas. Here, Vishnu in his incarnations as Rama and Krishna became the center of devotion. And what's beautiful is how Vaishnavism reimagined metaphysics itself. Creation wasn't just illusory, but real, a manifestation of God's Leela, or divine play. Unlike strict Advaita, it saw meaning in this illusion, in participating in this illusion, in the relationship between the human and the divine. But to Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate reality is Nirguna Brahman, attributeless, infinite consciousness. The word exists only as a projection upon it, much like images upon a mirror. The self, which is your Atman, is identical to Brahman. Liberation is realizing this identity. Over time, Shaivism, Vaishnavism, and Shaktism evolved as cultural expressions of these metaphysical ideas. The Kapalikas came much later. They can be called Neo-Shaivites with a lot of Tantra. The name comes from Kapala, meaning skull, as practitioners carry skull bowls. In Bengal, Kapalikas are still found. Kapalikas perceive Shiva in his terrifying form named Bhairava, the destroyer of illusion. Shaktism, meanwhile, recognized the primordial feminine energy, Shakti, as the animating force of all existence. And thus, I have gone over the basic darshanas of Hindu philosophy, which accepts every ideology with courage to perceive reality differently. But Bhagwan, the essence of human understanding, lies in the beauty of your response, which is indifferent. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita tepi mameva konteya yajantya vidhi purvakam. Those who pray to other gods are praying to me. That's why the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very succinct text, concludes with, "The unreal has no existence, and the real never ceases to be. The seers of truth have seen both and found no difference." That's the entire spectrum of Hindu thought in one sentence. The observer and the observed, the God and the self, Shiva and Shakti, energy and matter, all are one consciousness, appearing as many, playing out infinite forms of the same eternal truth. All this is the brilliance of Sanatan Dharma, but brilliance alone cannot protect a culture. A civilization that loses pride in its rituals slowly loses its connection to its own soul. That is what happened to us. Not because our traditions are weak, but because generation after generation are thought to feel ashamed of them. Why guilt? Because guilt is stronger than fear. Fear makes you obey, but guilt makes you doubt yourself. That's how Hindus were conquered, not by being told your god is false, but by being told you should be embarrassed of your god. Millions grew up thinking rituals are pointless without ever knowing what they truly mean. We must decolonize our minds, reclaim our traditions, and honor rituals not just as superstition, but as the science of the universe. You can't defend what you don't understand, so before you dismiss what your ancestors preserved for thousands of years, you owe it to yourself to learn, and not just from social media, but from scriptures themselves. Namaste.